Greetings, everyone. We are together with Mr. Bülent Kantar from ISRS in this 63rd video of the Divine Order and the Universe Reading and Commentary series.
Good evening, everyone.
This evening, we will go deeper into the topic of time comprehension, and especially the mechanism of destiny. Last 2 weeks, we explained many key concepts with examples and figures, so please watch our 61st and 62nd videos before watching this evening's recording. Yes, let's start reading. Here, there is a point that needs to be explained. The mechanism of destiny, as it performs its functions in the universe, advances together with the principle of time, which is subject to the original principle. The state of the principle of time in the universe is original time. And as it passes through various cosmoses, original time has manifestations according to those cosmoses. We have just explained one of these, as superficial time comprehension particular to the world, and the other as perceptual time particular to the superworld cosmoses. So, the mechanism of destiny can render its function in the world only with original time. That is, the mechanism of destiny, as it does the accounting and technical expression of the original principle, utilizes time as the measure. The mechanism of time is both very necessary and imperative. It is very necessary because in the realization of what the original principle determines as the boundary and the essence, time is the criteria and measure of the principle of destiny. If time does not exist, the principle of destiny remains measureless and cannot render its technical function. It is imperative because if the appreciative quality of the mechanism of time does not exist, there is no harmony in the mechanism of destiny, and consequently, no connection between the original principle and the plans of duty and evolution, and no reconciliation between these principles, plans and the order of occurrences and flows of the cosmoses, and finally, determination and evaluation of the value differentiations become impossible, and therefore, the quantity and then the quality remains without order, and in this case, all applications lose their focus.
I think it may be good to dwell on this concept of time as a measure. How do we measure time? We measure time with our clocks, calendars, or atomic clocks. Actually, what we do is to measure the cycles or periods of matter. Our planet completes a revolution around its star in 365 days. We measure years by those days. And how this measuring is related with the mechanism of destiny. I imagine such an example. Let's think that we're watching a movie in a movie feather. A machinist puts a spool into a movie projector, and the spool has a film strip recorded with many still scenes. Projector is directed towards a blank screen. The movie has a plot, a scenario, a story, and we may think the mechanism of destiny as the factor that puts all those stills in the correct sequence to reveal the story. If those stills are not properly sequenced, then on the screen, a space cannot occur. Yes, this is a crude example, but we may think the scenario of the movie as a symbol for the mechanism of destiny.
One of the important points in this passage is this expression, determination and evaluation of the value differentiations. In this book we read that the world cycles are in general 60,000 or 70,000 years long, compared to the physical history of our planet, which is around 4.5 million years. Such cycles seem too short. But again, when we study the human history, we can understand the length of time as the reality of the primitive human beings gradually changed to our current reality. And in our current level of development, we progress with more tools and methods for measuring or calculating the periods of time. And yes, they feel faster and faster. I mean, since the beginning of our existence in this world, as human beings we observed and followed the cycles and periods. And by comparing whatever we experienced and acquired by living in those cycles and periods to whatever we gleaned our previous experiences in the previous cycles and periods, we brought out value differentiations. And this is how our previous realities turned into our current reality. Because, whenever we act or move, this leads to causes and effects, that is, for the value differentiation to occur, motion is needed. And what moves or motivates us most? Yes, emotions. As we run after some emotions for fulfillment, or as we run away from some emotions for aversion, we continuously make choices and actions, and this keeps us in motion. And one of the most important points of the value differentiation is that we attract events in those cause and effect cycles and periods. And as we progress in life by making choices and actions from either side of the conscience mechanism, that is either from the side of the sensuality or the earthly cravings component, or from the side of the intuition of duty, we swing back and forth in the conscience mechanism, and we acquire abilities, talents, experience, and knowledge that widen our comprehension. And at the end of each lifetime, if there are unfinished and incomplete parts of our life plan, these bring out another value differentiation that will lead another life plan and another incarnation. Because the being makes an accounting in the spatium period and finds some shortcomings to be completed. And this brings us to the point you mentioned. The mechanism of destiny binds the matter milieu and time-form motions to bring out the space for the new scenario of the life plan of the being to be revealed and lived through by the new body. Yes, let's continue reading. We have called the manifestation of the flow of original time in the world superficial time. On the other hand, we have said that manifestation of destiny which flows across the universe and displays manifestations particular to every cosmos is the space forms in the world. So, the space which does not separate from time and finds its measure of value and grade by time is the result of the principle of destiny's function in the world. With this knowledge, we have explained the manifestation of destiny in the world which manifests as the state of space together with time. And we clearly stated that all realities that exist with time and space are the imperatives of the degrees which mankind needs to be worthy of or to acquire by efforts based on freedom, and again, which are measured and calculated by time and space, that is, appreciated by the beings in duty in the cadres of time and space. For this is a truth, that the applications of the original necessities and of all mechanisms connected to these necessities in the universe are the obligatory sanctions to be done by the beings of duty, working at the organizations in the cadres of original necessity, of original time and of the mechanism of destiny. And the influences belonging to the mechanisms of destiny and time which are filtered from the unitary and permeate into the universe with original influences find the grounds of application with the universal activities of the great plans of duty, which are engaged within the cadres executing these mechanisms. And all staff of these cadres are powerful beings who are firmly placed at their posts and duly comprehend their duties.
All right, you know the old adage, as above so below. Therefore, again, I will try to explain what I understand from this passage by an example. And personally, I think that we may easily find various examples for many topics explained in the divine order and the universe. Last week, we had read an example of a school, so I'd like to elaborate on this example. If we go back to that school example, the school principal, assistants, and teachers represent the beings in the plan of duty. Students who are leveled in various grades are representations of the various developmental levels. It can be thought that each grade or class actually corresponds to a reality in the developmental levels. The school principal and assistants determine a curriculum for each grade that contain many lessons. This curriculum defines the order in which the lessons will be given and at what time of the year. This is actually a general plan. The principal and assistants are symbols for the concept of unitary. Teachers, on the other hand, make detailed plans for the lessons they will teach to students according to this general curriculum. In this way, it is planned which subject will be covered on which day and at what time and for how long. Teachers are the representation of the beings in duty. In fact, all these plans are a destiny plan for the school's activities for that year. The school's management staff also functions as a mechanism of destiny that connects and details the lessons to be taken with the time that flows throughout the year. I think this situation is not so different what we experience right now.
And we understand that there is a cadre of beings in duty that organizes the advance of our planet in its orbit around the sun, its rotation around its axis, and the interactions among the systems related to these. Similarly, there is a cadre of beings in duty with a much wider capacity that governs the Sun and the solar system, and its interactions with other celestial objects and the Milky Way galaxy. These cadres and their ever-expanding capacity go on indefinitely, up to the unitary. Yes, there is a cadre of beings in duty with the world. Also, there is a cadre of beings in duty with me. And when I say the beings in duty with me, please understand that these are beings in duty that are able to work within the almost infinite possibilities of the spherical time, and consequently, that can harmonize my destined occurrences to happen in synchronicity with all other occurrences in the ever larger organizations, so that these minor and major levels don't contradict within the ever-expanding organizations of duty plans. Yes, in my life plan, there is an outline of things that are related with from where I came and to where I will go, but this only contains the possibilities and potentials. Therefore, a lifetime means a process that is constantly active and dynamic, that gets formed or deformed or transformed within systems governed by the beings in duty, and at the same time, by my choices, actions, efforts, experiences, and by my widening comprehension. Yes, let's continue reading. After this knowledge given about time and space, this is well understood, in the world, declaring that such is the destiny of this or that man in any issue means that the gathering and binding of all matter combinations, depending on certain times which put into effect the events that man is in the midst of about that issue have manifested in this form, at that moment, and the ones who have well grasped the definition of space comprehend that this means that around a man, spaces according to him, are built. Likewise, a phrase such as "he is not destined" means that matter combinations belonging to an issue about him have not occurred in the expected way but in other forms, and again, this means a space which is built around that issue out of other matter forms and states than the expected ones. In short, every state and form expressing space, every state of events is a manifestation of destiny. The milieu which becomes the ground for the motion of a man moving his hand is space and manifestation of destiny. For a walking man, the places he steps on are space. For a man looking at the sky, sky is space with its stars, clouds, colors, with its whole appearance and state, and is manifestation of destiny. For a man who turned his attention to some point of his body, that point is space and manifestation of destiny. For a man thinking, the imagination is space, the comprehension making connections among events is space and manifestation of destiny. In short, everything seen in the universe, every being, the man itself, is a space, and all of these are manifestation of destiny in their own cosmoses. 4. Formations of all of these, their connecting to each other in various ways, their subjection to analysis and synthesis in the form of innumerable combinations, that is, occurrence of all events and matter states are the various variations of space, and they advance within the function of mechanism of destiny.
This is a very important passage. The knowledge given here needs to be digested properly. Because the mechanism of destiny, or our life plans, be it individual or communal, lend us very wide fields of freedom. This is emphasized here. Yes, it keeps us in a certain rote, but at the same time provides us with a very expansive field of freedom. To explain this seemingly paradox, I'd like to share a story from Islamic history about Caliph Umar. Once, Hazrat Umar set out for Damascus, and along the way, he was informed of an outbreak. He called the migrants for consultation. There were varying opinions, with some saying that they should not fear and move forward, while others were of the opinion that they should return. Hazrat Umar consulted with the residents of Medina as well as the elders of the Quraysh tribe, and ultimately decided that everyone should go back. When someone asked him whether it was possible to divert from the decree of God, Hazrat Umar replied, "Yes, we flee from the decree of God to the decree of God." What do you think if you had camels that descended into a valley with two sides? One fertile with plants and grass suitable for the camels to graze, and the other barren with no plants, unsuitable for grazing. Wouldn't you graze them in the fertile part by the decree of God? And if you graze them in the barren part, wouldn't that also be by the decree of God? That is, within that field of time and space that is given to humans, we are always within the life plan destined for us, no matter where we go. I think our destined life plan has not a linear, but a planar structure. Within that plane, we have various destinations, and we can reach those destinations through various paths and ways. Just like Google Maps. Right now, I am in Izmir. Let's say I will go to another city, and I am a new driver. I open Google Maps and enter my first destination, and I follow the directions, yet I missed a turn stated by Google. What happens? Google Maps displays an alternative route. Later, I get tired and hungry. I search a nearby eating place, and I stop at a roadside restaurant and have lunch. Yet I lost the track of time and I missed the ferry boat, and the next one is 2 hours later. Google Maps suggests me to take the highway instead of ferry boat, etc. It seems more reasonable to think of the life plan created through the mechanism of destiny as a wide area containing many alternatives and paths rather than a straight line. Of course, if that being has sufficient level of comprehension, it can contribute to outlining a life plan. The being can progress towards its destinations by choosing from among many possible routes within this field or area. Every route it chooses within this area, every decision it makes, is again within its own circle of destiny. And we deserve that life plan, both due to our acquisitions from the past lifetimes and due to the developmentary needs and shortcomings we need to fulfill. Yes, despite the fact that our life plan consists necessities, it also offers many possibilities and freedoms.
We read in this passage that, for a man who turned his attention to some point of his body, that point is space and manifestation of destiny. When our being focused its concentration and influences into the fertilized egg in a mother's womb, we bring out a field or a space for that fetus to grow and develop until its birth to the world. By joining a complex chain of destinies of our parents with our own destiny, a space occurred that does not contradict the free will and needs of others. And not only the body, we read. For a man thinking, the imagination is space, the comprehension making connections among events is space and manifestation of destiny. In many ancient teachings, the advice was to be careful what one thinks about because we are responsible for not only our actions, but also for our thoughts. Because we bring out an action in the imagination, we bring out an influence, and this is a thought product that may create value differentiations within and without. In a recent study, researchers studied how people decide, and they found out that people make decisions depending on they feel good about it or not. We may think that we decide consciously, however, feeling good or bad about things may be related to our states like if we are hungry or not, if we feel cold or warm, if we sleep deep or not, if our bodily organs work properly or not. And also, our states like fears from some past life memories, ancestral dynamics, or our learnings and conditionings we had in our current lifetime. As you see, there is ever subtle nuances in this process. So, when our thinking process is in the midst of these multiple dynamics, do we really choose when we say this is my choice? Because of this fact, the divine order in the universe reminds its readers that human beings in this world are rather in automatic, semi-comprehending, and more or less comprehending states, and cannot have total comprehension. This is why we only understand what is best for our development in hindsight, because mostly, when we encounter a challenging and troubling event or situation, we either tend to become resentfully submissive, saying, yes, nothing to do, this is my destiny, or we tend to lose control and panic or rebel against the flow of events. Later, when we live through such events, we can turn back and see that this or that thing we wanted back then didn't happen because it wouldn't be serving me after all, or the way things happened back then was actually a part of our empowerment. Nevertheless, because we are mostly in automatic and semi-comprehending states, we cannot arrive at the destined points unless the beings in duty nudge or push us in the intended direction. Just like the Google Maps example you shared. Even at the points we make wrong turns, we are offered alternative paths and routes. Also, we cannot know if the shortest route is the best option, because it may become the longest due to a road accident. Yes, regardless of the point of argument or example we take, we end up in the meeting or conjunction of the events, needs and necessities.
Again, all our examples are just symbols or representations of the concepts we like to explain better. That Google Maps example is the crude version of how the spiritual guidance works. I mean, they have a vantage point. They can see things at below from above, and when necessary, they intervene to direct us toward the intended destinations. All of us have different versions of such interventions, and deep within, we know that these are not merely coincidences. And here we are subject to the superficial time and space, but such interventions from the cadres of the beings in duty appear like synchronicities to us. Actually, such interventions are projections from the spherical time and space.
Your words reminded me a movie titled The Adjustment Bureau. It is a romantic comedy and represents how the systems organize and work hard to make a person to reach his destination. In the movie it was totally topsy-turvy, of course, but I must stop before making it a spoiler. I suggest this movie to our dear friends. Yes, let's continue reading. The beings are continuously in tests and trials because of the freedom they have. Behaviors, positive or negative reactions on the face of these tests and trials, in short, successes and failures, are concluded by the occurrence of matter combinations appreciated and determined by destiny, that is, infinite states and circumstances of spaces, and the beings live in various states of these events in accordance with their degrees of merit. So, each of all events and all matter combinations which put them into effect are only the spaces which are the manifestations of the mechanism of destiny. In short, the minute measurement and calculation of the degrees of the beings according to their acts and behaviors, so these can be bonded to the forms after going through applications of accounting in order to be adapted to the states in the original necessities, means the effectuation of various matter and event forms and devices, which is done by the mechanism of destiny through using original time, under original necessities. After this knowledge, it is not right to talk in certain terms about the futures of world mankind who are not yet into the plan of duty and whose states are subjected to tests and trials even down to their smallest movement, by stating names and times. For, mankind concludes the advance of their surroundings and spaces, that is, in one word, of their destiny by themselves in accordance with the directions they use their freedom at. Words about future can be uttered, under some conditions, only at the plans of duty for which the truths are realized. Strict judgments about the future in the world would mean rejecting the authorities of freedom of all mankind. Even an ant which you set free after some point to go to another point either reaches that point by walking on the path at some speed, or makes it longer by spending time around or turning right or left, or it turns back and changes the path completely. All of these determine the forms of the results it will have, that is, its destinies. The knowledge given above up to this point is sufficient to state that among the forces of the original necessities which we accept as descended to the universe symbolically with the light of a projector and which encompass spirits and matter, there are also the mechanism of destiny and original time, and that they play important roles concerning the realization of the original necessities.
We already read in the divine order and the universe that after the spatium period ends, and our being is ready to outline a new life plan for the next incarnation. There are two kinds of life plan that outlined. First one is the individual plan, and the other is the communal plan. We already discussed the individual plan. That is, it is limited field of necessary experiences, but has a certain high degree of freedom of action. And this personal life plan is outlined in an optimum manner within the frame of our being's conclusions related to the last lifetime after the accounting in the spatium, and with the needs of our spirit. Yet, this individual plan does not have much meaning on its own, because for this individual plan to be properly realized, we must be interacting with other beings. In other words, no single being can get developed without interactions with other beings. Hence, the necessity of communal plans, starting from our parents, siblings, other family members, friends, spouse, children, colleagues, etc. All beings that we need to interact with has to be defined in this plan. Consequently, a whole net of interactions of all individual plans emerge. Yet this net is not randomly put together. We previously discussed how the super-universe truths and original necessities initiate the substance of our universe by sending influences and providing a space and time that make up realms and cosmoses for the beings to get developed as the vehicles of the spirits in the hydrogen cosmos. And this development of the beings and the resultant evolution of the spirits are ensured by the principle of destiny, which appear as the mechanism of destiny in the universe. And everything and each being progress in accordance with the evolutionary necessities that are super-universe. As you see in this slide, this fishing net is getting pulled up from a point at the highest level, and we are just dots upon this net of inter-influencing plans. And we vibrate within that dot as much as our degree of freedom. We slightly move up and down maybe, but we are still in the net, on the net. We will be going up all together. Yes, if we cannot now, later we will. Now or later, fast or slow, eventually we will move up. Yet, even this simile of a fishing net is a simple version of this dynamic net. Maybe this slide is better. It seems insufficient to define the communal plan as a two-dimensional network, because a being interacts with hundreds or even thousands of other beings throughout its lifetime in this world. Living beings, our pets, other animals and plants, disembodied beings, etc. Therefore, communal plans are probably prepared in a multi-dimensional matrix by the beings in duty in accordance with the possibilities of spherical time. This image is still a symbol for such a complex matrix. And in such a plan, the lines connecting the being to each other should be in the form of an interaction protocol that includes all dimensions of interaction and details of the process. I mean, how they will support each other or how they will hinder each other. What and how these two beings will benefit from their interaction, etc. And you see, this is only for just two beings. Try imagining the complexity of all those interaction lines. And in addition to all this plan should be in harmony with the necessities of the universe and therefore the needs of the spirits.
Thank you, dear Bülent. This is a beneficial example. Yes, as we read in this passage, our states are subjected to tests and trials even down to our smallest movement. In short, we are always in tests and trials of life. These tests and trials will become smoother in the plan of love, and when we reach the plan of duty, these will transform into executing duties. Yet, we are here, in this world, in the human stage, and consequently, our tests and trials are harsh, because we learn by comparing our experiences in the opposing sides of the conscience mechanism. And the ever-changing value differentiations between these opposites appear as crude influences. Like wars, battles, clashes, killings, blood feuds, famine, migrations. Let alone the natural disasters that shake the foundations of our two established lifestyles. Just imagine how we are shaken even by some changes in our hormonal levels. And in the midst of all of these hardships, we still continue learning. And most of the time, this does not happen consciously. We are not aware of the location of on that fishing net. Yes, there are questions coming from our dear friends, such as, you had said that what you want may not be the true needs of your being. How is it possible? Does not the being govern the brain cells of the human being? Well, when the being builds a body, or in other words, a mechanism of consciousness, it does not control each thought, each action, and each movement of that conscious body. Yes, our being, or essence being, governs our body, but we are not a puppet and our being is not a puppeteer. We receive influences from our being, let's say these are vertical influences, and we also receive influences from our environment, from our surroundings, from other beings, and these are the horizontal influences. The assessment about all those information is done by our own consciousness. These information and influences evoke some certain emotions and thoughts within us, and we process these by our brain centers, and these result in some imagery. And all those resulting mental and emotional imagery of each day are restored in our unconscious until we die. And in the spatium period, when our being is in that total isolated state, previously processed knowledge of the past lives that is stored in the subconscious of the being is compared with those restored knowledge from the last lifetime is compared, and the essence of this comparison is owned by our being as essential knowledge. So, within such a complex and detailed system of governance, thinking like why should I be responsible? Whatever I do, think and say is controlled by our being, so I cannot be held responsible would be immature and also futile.
Well, there is a famous quote, supposedly by Albert Einstein. In theory and practice are the same. In practice, they are not. Now, our being makes a life plan, but if it could be completely realized by the body it has built in the crude matter of hydrogen cosmos, or if we human beings gave 100% performance in actualizing a life plan, then there wouldn't be a need for the great accounting in the spatium period between lifetimes of the being. Our performance for fulfilling our life plan depends more or less on our degree of sensuality, or our tendency of making choices from the earthly craving side of the conscience mechanism. Let me explain this in another way. Our being directs a major part of its energy and influences to a body it builds in the cruder matter of the hydrogen realm, that is, our human body. Then, a human being is born, and as this baby grows up, within 4 or 5 years, she or he assumes a personality, more or less unhealthy ego boundaries that result in sensuality in every versions you can think of. Consequently, the connection between the being and its body weakens in time. And the purpose of all those ancient and modern teachings about self-knowledge or spirituality is to keep this connection strong as much as possible. Because as we become more conscious, more conscientious, and more comprehending, we master our feelings and emotions that are mostly fueled by the sensuality, by the earthly cravings. If our dear friends read the passages of the book or watch the previous videos related to the duality mechanism between sensuality and duty, they may understand how this connection between our being and our body may become stronger if we human beings work on ourself, on our inner world.
So far, we discussed how this immense system brought innumerable matter combinations together in that vast expanse of space. So, the question to ask ourselves now is, will we use this space and matter combinations and its possibilities for satisfying our selfish and sensual side? Or will we bring out conscientious and comprehending breakthroughs directed to the sense of duty for the betterment of the whole? In that sense, the important point is not the numbers of our lifetimes, but the quality of our impressions and knowledge we could gain in those lifetimes. There is another question. Is our communication with our being good or bad? How do influences of our being come to us? How can we make this connection better?
I think I can answer this question by referring to the fourth way teaching of Gurdjieff. This teaching talks about 4 levels of consciousness. First, our state in sleep. Second level is our daily consciousness. Third is the state of self-remembering. And the fourth level is the objective consciousness. In general, we are mostly in the second or mechanical level of consciousness, and in this book, this state is defined as automatic. In this state, we are under the control of the secondary influences coming from our surroundings, or the inner constructs that are defined as inner eyes in the fourth way teaching. Then, of course, we only hear their voices, or more correctly, the voice of life, the voice of sensuality, the voice of earthly cravings. Yet, as we gain more self-knowledge, we get the control of our inner world. We take the wheel, so to speak. And this elevates our consciousness to the third level, self-remembering. This state is akin to living mindful, or living in the moment, as the flow of time becomes more in favor of this state. Then, our consciousness becomes closer to the free part of our being, and this allows us to receive its influences in a clearer way, without the interference of sensuality. In short, for making our connection to our being stronger, or for receiving clearer influences of our being, we need to be less and less mechanic or automatic, and more comprehending. Otherwise, this is not an easy task to do.
Thankfully, after years of myriad experiences and event of life, we reach some degree of maturity and our efforts for waking up increase. The divine order and the universe define those efforts as conscientious acts and deeds. Gurdjieff's teaching complements the knowledge given in this book with the exercises and practices it offers. So, please know that there are teachings and practices that may help you for strengthening your connection to your being. Yet, I'd like to remind to myself and to all of us that knowing is not sufficient. I mean, we run from one teaching to another workshop, always trying to know more and more, but unless we apply what we learn, this accumulation becomes a burden, another sensual charge on our system. This is why we emphasize the practical work in our public lectures. It is essential, because we cannot wake up by thinking of waking up. Action and application are necessary. Yes, thank you for your attendance, dear friends. Hoping to see you all next week.
Good evening, everyone.